Good morning, all of you. Welcome back to the channel, and I hope that you must be doing great. So here we are starting with the analysis video for 9th of August 2023. So police registers case against the Assam Rifles in Manipur. So in an unprecedented move, the Manipur police have registered a criminal case against Assam Rifles, which is the oldest paramilitary force in the country, for obstruction of duty and criminal intimidation. So that is basically the reality, the ground reality in Manipur, that even paramilitary forces, they are also involved in criminal intimidation. So what about the safety of rights, the security of the people living there, if paramilitary forces are also found at fault? So police have accused the personnel of the 9th Battalion of the Assam Rifles of the arrogant act of giving a chance to the accused Kuki militants to escape freely to a safe zone. So that is the whole case about. So all this is political so far. So Jharkhand Adivasi Mahotsav, the tribals festival. So the major attractions have been mentioned over here. Basically their history, obviously their history, their culture, their traditions, and their contribution to the economy, their heritage, all of that becomes very important. And obviously, when it comes to the administration of these areas, their rights, do we have any specific act for safeguarding their rights? So all of that is important, and obviously their role in terms of conservation of the environment is also very important. So you can just go into the details of these dimensions. So 9th August is celebrated as the World's Tribal Day and rooted in sustainability. So as I just mentioned, that you can talk about their importance, their contribution from the perspective of environmental conservation, tribal prosperity. Obviously, you need to relate with their livelihood, their contribution to the economy and economic development of even the surrounding areas. And here it is obviously the important states that have the tribal population. That's important. So from Chhattisgarh, if we see building a better future, they've revived 314 schools that were destroyed by the Naxal violence in Bastar region, Swami Atmanand Schools of Excellence, also strengthening education, then ensuring livelihood of the 15 lakh forest dwellers, the Tendu Patta collectors. Their remuneration have been increased to rupees 4,000 per bag. And obviously, government is also procuring 67 minor forest produce at the support price. So these are some of the ways through which their income has been increased. Free healthcare is also reaching them, then safeguarding their rights. And these are some of the provisions, like successful enforcement of the rules of the PESA law. It strengthens the Gram Sabha's rights in decisions related to water, forest, land in the scheduled regions. Coming to the editorial page, so the grammar of commerce in a new age of geopolitics. So this is an important topic from GS3 economy. So that India is a favored trading partner with the potential for a large market. It has been quite evident also, at least since March 2018, when we see that 23 advanced and developing countries, they've agreed to have currency swap agreements with India, extending the credits in the settling of transactions. So use of rupee for the international payments, we are seeing growth and much more acceptance at this front. There has been an unexpected turn in the use of Indian rupee for international transactions after specifically the Ukraine war it began and US imposed sanctions on Russia. Then issue became more serious for Russia, uh, obviously after the imposition of sanctions. An alternative route was chosen to settle the payments between India and Russia by using the Indian rupee in transactions related to trade, specifically in terms of trade of crude oil. So functioning of rupee wash-through accounts, that becomes important, the concept and the functioning process behind it from the perspective of prelims. And then there is wash-through accounts, there is nostril account. What is the difference between them? A difference between their purpose. Then while the arrangement it seemed to be foolproof, there then we also saw कि एक problem भी create होगी because of this, because again जब हम Russia से crude oil import कर रहे हैं and if India is paying in rupee, तो Russia also needs to look कि कहाँ पे it can use the Indian rupee currency. So अगर उसका आगे कोई further use नहीं होगा, so that has basically created a problem. And the Russia reluctant to hold more of the Indian rupee as an asset in the wash-through account, that is the challenge. So basically what we need to work upon is that not just in terms of bilateral relations, we need to ensure that more and more countries it comes or it is involved in this network of rupee payments. So global acceptance of rupee as it will increase. So this problem that we are seeing specifically with Russia, that would also be resolved automatically. Because then we'll see that other countries would also be ready to accept Indian rupee in terms of trade payments. So agreements in the past, so concerns highlighted above, it brings back the memories of some similar bilateral trade. Well, this is not the first time that we are trying to push the international acceptance of rupee, but in the past also we took some initiatives. So back then we need to again understand the lessons from them. So clearing the arrangements that India had initiated in 1950s also. So we attempted this thing in 1950s as well, and this was a major tool that was used in conducting trade with former Soviet Union countries and the Soviet bloc. And in similar manner, bilateral trading arrangements between India and Soviet Union that also provided a close account in rupees to handle the merchandise as well as credit-related transactions as well. So all this began in 1950s with the Soviet Union setting up a steel plant in Bhilai, defying the opposition from the Western nations. And problems similar to the concerns now over the choice of a suitable currency to settle the trade surpluses came up earlier too when the Soviet Union began having trade surpluses on a consistent basis. So, जो situation या जो concern आज हैं, similar concerns were witnessed even back during 1950s also. So आज की बात में अगर हम आज की बात करें and we compare the situation today and back then, तो obviously the first and the major thing we can say is that geopolitical scenario जो है that has obviously changed a lot. So the purchase of yuan to settle the Russian surpluses in prevailing rupee account is currently approved as a convenient step by Russia. So there's a history of opposition also in the context of BRICS to similar use of the Chinese currency by the non-Chinese members of BRICS. So this was in the context of setting up a clearing arrangement among the BRICS members to settle the consistently large surpluses that were held by China, and this idea did not work out. So the present geo-economic scene hai, it has also led to further settlements in the local currencies. It is not just that we are seeing in terms of rupee, but other currencies apart from US dollars. So basically other countries are also, trying to reduce their dependence upon US dollars because somewhere it makes things volatile and huge fluctuations are witnessed, which obviously impacts the stability of any particular economy. So that's why we are seeing even other countries are coming forward in terms of, reducing their dependence upon the usage of US dollar. So it would also help in avoiding the exchange rate risks for both the trade partners. It would also save dollars, the forex reserves. And in addition, the agreement, it provides for interlinking their payment and messaging systems also. So here we're talking in terms of India and UAE. They have been basically moving forward in this direction. So it makes for a quick and cost-effective transfers of money as well. It is easier to make payments. And negotiations are also going on with Indonesia on similar front. So none can deny that saving of the hard currencies in these agreements, despite a possible loss of confidence in the currencies, that could disrupt such arrangements. Obviously, what is important is that we need to look at the long-term sustainability of these arrangements. So we are seeing, in a way, a new financial architecture is emerging. So with the Indian rupee, the Russian ruble, Chinese yuan, UAE's dirham, and even Indonesia's rupiah, it is also sharing the common goal of local currency transactions. One also notices geoeconomic and the political turn with the countries in the south getting ready to trade and settle their payments with one another without the use of hegemonic currencies from the advanced economies in the north. That is basically more of US dollar. So when we are basically understanding all this as well, like internationalization of rupee or de-dollarization, these are some of the keywords. You need to also then look at the history of the currency euro. Uh, how basically now we are seeing whether it is strengthening or even other countries are losing confidence in euro or not. Apart from that, comparison between the exchange rate of euro and US dollar. So one is that, and another thing is, again, you need to look at the proper evolution and global acceptance of US dollar as well. So climate events and an umbrella for the urban health. So it is talking about the health sector. So basically the disease vulnerability, specifically when we are seeing the spreading or increasing numbers of non-communicable diseases, then we need to rebuild the health system according to the evolving situation. So the challenges, that's the new emerging challenges, and given that we're seeing increasing exposure to unpredictable and extreme climatic events, we need to rebuild the urban primary healthcare system and ensure its resilience at the same time. So system, it needs to focus on vulnerable urban population, especially those who are living in urban slums or the peri-urban areas. So that needs to be one of the focus areas. Apart from this, resilient health system is one which can respond to the emergency situations, basically quick response time, then prepare well in advance against the impending crisis. So preparedness level needs to be at the highest level. Then we need to adapt to the changing public health needs with time also. So that's how when we can say that these are some of the characteristics of a resilient health system. So when we talk about a crucial prerequisite for this is a greater public investment. So obviously that is needed with an immediate focus on the urban areas, specifically in the vulnerable regions. And we are having different schemes, like we are having National Urban Health Mission. It has made modest beginnings in improving the primary care systems in urban areas, and the limited and the varied ability of the urban local bodies in generating revenues, that constrains the progress. So again, funding is a problem. Then again, we need to, apart from focusing upon the vulnerable population, and we have talked about creating a resilient health system, then we need to also focus upon strengthening the preventive and the public health functions, which are the responsibilities of the local bodies. So the role of local bodies becomes very important. And what is essential is a special fund from the statutory institutions like Finance Commission that is targeted towards building a resilient system for the vulnerable urban areas. So such attention needs to go beyond the cities to towns. So this is another thing. Preventive healthcare needs to be strengthened. Even that can be one of the other focus areas. Role of the local bodies, building a resilient health system, focusing upon the vulnerable urban population, and not just talking within the periphery of the urban areas, but we need to go beyond. Then we need to look into what have been the lessons from the COVID-19 experiences. So we need to learn from them and implement that. So with the complex nature of the health and the climate crisis, the current system of the vertical disease control programs that needs to give way to the comprehensive health system approach in the management of the public health programs. And an immediate step in working towards this, it could be the integration of frontline workers across various disease management programs to create a cadre of multi-purpose frontline public health cadres in urban areas who would be accountable to the communities and to the health system as well. So such integration, it will also help address one of the key challenges in the sphere of public health in the country, that is shortage of the adequately trained workforce in the health and allied areas. So basically, it would be in a way acting like a win-win situation, and we would be able to address twin challenges at the same time with a single step. So this is again the way forward, what you can suggest in your answers as a solution. So this is very important. So it is saying a vertical disease control program and comprehensive health system approach. That is the way forward. So what is the Fitch downgrade of US about? So we'll just go through the gist of it. So in its major downgrade since the Standard and Poor's actions in 2011, US was downgraded by the rating agency Fitch from AA plus to AAA, which is a rating that it had been holding at the agency since 1994. So Fitch, it has said that there has been a steady deterioration in the standards of governance over the last 20 years, including the fiscal and the debt matters. So management of these matters that has been in a way like the standards of governance that has been poor and falling. And it also said that there's been lack of medium-term fiscal framework and a complex budgeting process is there, coupled with several economic shocks. We saw how the banks failed, the tax cuts, and new spending initiatives. So all of this in a combined manner have led to successive increase in debt over the last decade, have led to drop in the US credit ratings. And then there was also the issue of US debt ceiling hitting the maximum amount and the maximum level. So even that was at that point of time, it was being believed that if the situation is not handled, it is not managed and controlled at this point of time, it could lead to the next global financial crisis. So that was, we can say, such grave was a situation. So these are different factors behind the downgrading of US by Fitch. So Jan Vishwas bill kya hai and what are the proposals under this bill? And again, related concerns to that. So Jan Vishwas bill, it contains basically 42 laws and that is across multiple sectors, including agriculture, environment, media, and publication and health. So it converts several fines to penalties, meaning that court prosecution that is not necessary to administer the punishments. So it also removes imprisonment as a punishment for many offenses. So this is one of the major concerns or opposition, and it is being believed that with these new proposed amendments, it is being diluted in a way. So covered under this bill, there are changes in the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, Food Safety and Standards Act, the Pharmacy Act. So this has evoked heated debate about its pros and cons among the healthcare activists also and experts in the field of pharmacy and patient welfare groups. So the changes that have been proposed in the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, they have been the most contentious. So it regulates the imports, manufacturing, distribution, and sale of the drugs and cosmetics in India. So that is basically you can say, the purpose behind this act. And the act, it defines 4 categories of offenses, which is adulterated drugs, spurious drugs, mislabeled drugs, and not of standard quality drugs. And then accordingly, it lays out the degrees of punishment based on the degree of offense. So what are the pros and cons of the amendments? So the amendments, they have brought in sharp criticism from the health activists, and It is being said that this bill is detrimental to the public health on two counts. So there are two major concerns. First is that it allows the manufacturers of not of standard quality drugs to escape significant penalties despite the fact that these drugs they can have an adverse effect on the patient, and that can also lead to death of patient also. So even in that case, if that also happens, so the drug manufacturer basically we can say in a way enjoys no accountability. If a person is dying because of low quality drug or because of a contaminated drug, then manufacturer would just have to pay some amount of fine, which is not a big deal for them. And then the second concern is that bill also reduces penalties, not just converting the imprisonment as a penalty or a punishment into penalty, but it has also reduced the amount of penalties for the owners of pharmacies who violate the terms of their license. So why is it being done, or you can think about how is it going to actually create a positive impact is a little difficult thing to understand. So here, Indian pharmaceutical sector, it is manufacturing and the pharmacy is included. They're already subject to extremely lax regulation. मतलब अभी भी जो current regulatory environment है for the regulation of the pharmacy sector, वो already इतने weak हैं कि आप उसको और weak कर रहे हो. एंड रिसेंटली जो हम देख रहे हैं इंटरनेशनली, जो भी हम कफ सिरप्स एंड ड्रग्स एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, उनकी क्वालिटी इतनी पुअर है कि इट हैज इवन अगेन लेड टू taking away the lives of children also. And yesterday also we were again seeing one of the incidences under which the quality of the drug was under question. So government की क्या argument है behind these proposed amendments? So responding to the concerns that have been raised by various groups on these provisions of the bill, the health minister said that India is the pharmacy of the world and we have to work towards ensuring that the best medicines they are provided while reasonable benefits they are also offered to businesses. Now here comes the ethical dilemma of the safety of the people, or you can say quality of drugs versus benefits to the businesses or the pharmacists or the manufacturers. So that is the ethical dilemma and rationalizing the law. So what do you actually mean by rationalizing of law? You can't compromise with the health of the people. So you need to eliminate the barriers. That's true. You need to bolster the growth of businesses. So that's important. Rationalization of laws is important, but dilution of laws is not acceptable. And when it comes to that, if we have that vision of seeing India as the pharmacy of the world, then these incidences of cough syrups, contaminated cough syrups, eye drops, that would obviously hamper our reputation at the global level and would be a roadblock when we say that we wish to see India as the pharmacy of the world or in terms of production of generic drugs. So that needs to be taken into account. So CJ basically raised a question that should constitution be amended to make Article 370 permanent? Because it is being debated in a way that can we really say that Article 370 forms a part of the basic structure of the Constitution or not? And if that is true, then whether Constitution needs to be amended to make this article permanent. So petitioners counsel Kapil Sibal, he argues that Parliament and Union government, they have diluted this Article 370 unilaterally, and relationship between Union government and state of Jammu and Kashmir was purely federal. So you cannot envisage a Brexit type of referendum, but within a constitution like ours, there is no question of a referendum. So that is completely out of question. And CGI, he said that as a constitutional democracy, India seeks its public opinions through established institutions like parliament and not through Brexit type of referendums. So when we talk about having public opinion, so that is in a way also we are having the political representatives in institutions in the legislature, which acts like their the public opinion. So it is not like we'll be carrying out referendums in India like it happened in case of Brexit, because we are a constitutional democracy. So the Constitution Bench is examining challenge to dilution of Article 370 of the Constitution, which annulled the special status of Jammu and Kashmir after its abolition. And so it is being debated that when you're even like you are thinking or you are taking such a decision, such a major decision of diluting article or abolition, I should say, abolition of Article 370, then it's important to take the public opinion. So that's what Kapil Sibal, who is the petitioner's counsel, has been arguing. So to that, that was a counter that in India, public opinion, it is taken through established institutions, which includes parliament. So that's there. Then another argument that was raised was that Union government had diluted Article 370 through a series of executive acts, starting with the dissolution of Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly, then the state government and subsequent imposition of the president's rule in the erstwhile state, and then tweaking all the provision to Article 370 Clause 3 to sidestep the precondition of getting the recommendation of the now defunct Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly before declaring Article 370 as inoperative. So that was the entire process, how this article was abolished, and that is basically coming under question according to the Petitioners' Council. So he says that you played a fraud on the Constitution. So he says that the relationship between the Union government and the state of Jammu and Kashmir was that of purely federal in nature, and it was not quasi-federal as it is in case of other states. So herein, when we are using this term quasi-federal, so you need to understand the difference between quasi-federalism and purely federal relationship. So there was one point when the CJ he asked how it could be assumed, like how can you assume this thing that Article 370 had assumed a permanent character in the Constitution and it cannot be either amended or abolished. So how can you assume that? That was one question raised by CJ. So was a constitutional amendment required in the Indian Constitution to drop this temporary nature of Article 370 and make it permanent? Or can it be deemed permanent merely on the basis that Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly, it did not abrogate it before dissolving in 1957? So दो चीजें हैं, क्या तो आप कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को अमेंड करके बोलोगे कि आर्टिकल 370 का जो टेम्परेरी नेचर है यू विल बी मेकिंग इट परमानेंट थ्रू अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट, और यू वुड बी सेइंग कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट रिक्वायर्ड ही नहीं है बिकॉज एज इट इज बीइंग स्टेटेड कि जम्मू एंड कश्मीर की जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली है उनका ओपिनियन लेना भी इम्पोर्टेंट था अगर आपको आर्टिकल 370 को अबॉलिश करना है. बट सिंस द कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली ऑफ जम्मू एंड कश्मीर वाज डिसॉल्व्ड इन 1957, तो ऑटोमेटिकली आर्टिकल 370 परमानेंट हो जाता है. So this is what the CGI raised. So the discussions and the arguments, it continues. So we'll be going through it as and when we get further updates. So no confidence motion, again, जो conceptual चीजें हैं and provisions हैं constitution में, वो सब आपको clear होना चाहिए. And again, अब यहाँ पे सोचने वाली चीज ये है कि सिंस द गवर्नमेंट स्टिल एंजॉयज मेजोरिटी एंड कहीं ना कहीं वी कैन सी कि एट द बैक ऑफ द माइंड एवरीवन नोज कि दिस पोर्शन इज गोइंग टू गेट डिफीटेड, बट डिस्पाइट दैट इट इज बीइंग प्रेजेंटेड, तो यू कैन बेसिकली रिलेटेड टू ethics paper 4 and मतलब डिस्पाइट नोइंग इट वुड गेट डिफीटेड इन अ वे, आप उसके बाद भी और फॉलोइंग द एंटायर प्रोसीजर एंड जो भी प्रोटोकॉल्स हैं, सो दैट इज द थिंग. So according to a survey, it has been found out that more number of students वो smartphones use कर रहे हैं for entertainment purposes rather than study. So again, now obviously इसका कहीं ना कहीं negative impact होगा, screen time increase हो रहा है तो obviously आपकी health पे भी impact होगा, and again आपके जो career options है, quality of life है, उस पे भी impact होगा, because again जिस purpose के लिए आप technology को use कर रहे हैं वो बहुत ज़्यादा matter करता है. So fiscal firepower is necessary to handle the exogenous shocks. So यहाँ पे fiscal management is very important. अगर इंडिया को properly deal करना है या situation handle करनी है, अगर कोई crisis होता है या globally we're seeing recession या external shocks होते हैं in terms of bank failures, तो उसको deal करने के लिए obviously we need fiscal resources and fiscal management. So that is very important thing. So there is no favorable change in the global headwinds as of now and associated risks with them. And so this is what has been put up by the finance minister as it conveys the inability to release the medium-term expenditure framework under the FRBM Act. So again, this is not being delivered. जो हम medium term expenditure framework की बात कर रहे हैं by the government, but at the same time ये बोला गया है कि कोई ऐसा ग्लोबल जो challenges हैं, जो problems है, concerns हैं, उनमें अभी ऐसा कुछ change नहीं हुआ है, या ये नहीं बोल सकते कि concerns और ज़्यादा increase हो गए हैं, जो भी associated risks हैं with them. So that is the thing, and keeping the power dry. So Finance Ministry underlines that there is lack of any favorable change in global uncertainties and headwinds since February. मतलब ना तो वो फेवर में चेंज हुई है, ना ही वो और ज़्यादा we can say कि और ज़्यादा risky situation हुई है. So ministry has cited unprecedented global uncertainties that may adversely affect the medium-term projections while skipping the fiscal projections for 2024-25 and 25-26. So effective management of जो exogenous shocks हैं, that necessitates additional flexibility. तो या तो आप बोलो कि buffer stocks की present होना बहुत important है, maintenance of buffer stocks important है, अगर future में there are any unforeseen incidences. So that's obviously something well understood. So China के जो जुलाई के exports थे, they have fallen by double digits. So we've been seeing कि Chinese economy has not been performing up to the mark, or even in terms of the economic recovery after the COVID-19. So the recovery is not that promising. So even उसके भी global impacts हो सकते हैं. So एक तो यही global challenge हो गया. Apart from this, Western world में, Europe में, when we talk about the growth rate of the Eurozone, so वहाँ पे भी we expect कि recession might hit soon, as per the performance of the economic indicators and quarterly GDP growth rate. So that's another challenge. And because of that, we are seeing कि जो global demand है, that is slowing down the exports from India. So in the Mint newspaper, Life Beyond Oil, So can distance tax ease the switch? So taxes from oil are critical to the functioning of both the central and the state governments. So in this graph, we are having the petroleum sector contribution to the exchequer. So you can see it to the center and the states. It has been increasing for the states, declining for the center. But again, the proportion is quite high when we talk about the revenues that are generated from the tax imposed on the uh, crude oil. So taxes on oil, it makes up a chunk of the government's revenue, and surging interest in the electric vehicles. However, this puts this under threat. And distance tax, it is touted as one of the way to offset any loss in the revenue. मतलब we are seeing कि जो taxes on ऑयल इम्पोज किए जाते हैं वो गवर्नमेंट रेवेन्यू का बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट है, या हम बोल सकते हैं बहुत लार्जर प्रोपोर्शन जो है इट फ्लोज फ्रॉम द टैक्सेस इम्पोज्ड ऑन द ऑयल. सो सिंस यू आर सीइंग कि इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स की डिमांड इंक्रीज हो रही है, तो ऑब्वियसली वो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी से चलते हैं, तो कहीं ना कहीं जो टैक्स रेवेन्यू जनरेट हो रहा है थ्रू द टैक्सेस ऑन ऑयल, तो वो कम हो जाएगा ना. उसको वी कैन से रिप्लेस करने के लिए या फिर एडिशनल अमाउंट हम कैसे जनरेट करेंगे, तो उसके लिए इट इज बीइंग थॉट कि हम डिस्टेंस टैक्स को इम्पोज कर सकते हैं सो दैट जो रेवेन्यू में लॉस पॉसिबल है वो ना हो. सो इफेक्टिवनेस की अगर हम बात करें डिस्टेंस टैक्स की, सो विल डिस्कस लिटिल मोर अबाउट इट. डिस्टेंस टैक्स बेसिकली होता क्या है, ये कैसे वर्क करेगा. So it is also called the mileage based user fees or road user charges. So distance taxes, they are levied on the motorist based on the road usage and the mileage. मतलब कितना road या कितना distance उन्होंने travel किया, and as per the mileage, distance tax collect किया जाएगा. In other words, the more you drive, the more you are taxed. So that's the simple logic. And rates can be flat also in terms of rupees per kilometer terms, or it can be variable depending upon where or when you are driving. Matlab it can vary from region to region, or it can be flat in terms of this much rupees would have to be levied in terms of कितना kilometers आपने travel किया. And again, it could also vary from vehicle to vehicle also. So how can it be implemented is the next question. So there are multiple technology options exist karte hai for implementing the distance tax for the vehicles. And this includes like automatic number plate recognition systems, so that identify ho jayegi ki when you are on the roads and when you're off the roads. Through the identification, the number plates, उससे time calculate हो जाएगा, कितना distance आपने travel किया, वो calculate हो जाएगा. So radio frequency identification system hai, that is another technological tool that we have. We have dedicated short range communication systems. So the most prevalent system that may be apt for India is using GPS to calculate the monthly or the annual mileage of a vehicle. So GPS based toll collection, it is currently being considered by the government that can come in handy in future. So distance taxes, again, it can be charged to a consumer at the toll plazas that you already have, and public charging stations where you will have to pay the amount. So apart from the distance tax, और क्या बाकी options available हैं? So other alternatives includes increasing the existing fuel tax rates. या तो मतलब ऑब्वियसली जो फ्यूल पे जो टैक्सेस लगाए जा रहे हैं आप, या तो टैक्स रेट उस पे और इंक्रीज कर दो. जो एनुअल फी इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स पे उसको इंक्रीज कर सकते हो. एंड यू कैन इंक्रीज फर्दर टैक्स ऑन इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, आप इंक्रीज कर सकते हो, जीएसटी ऑन इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स, या टोल टैक्स इंक्रीज कर सकते हो. बट दिस वुडंट बी समथिंग सो रैशनल एज फार एज compared to the imposition of distance tax. So why would a person be paying a higher amount of taxes on the oil? मतलब already आप pay कर रहे हो, तो उस पे क्या point कि if government fears कि tax revenue कम हो जाएगा because of increasing demand of the electric vehicles, so you need to again think more about how this burden can be distributed and divided between the users. So that's going to be an important thing. So oil tax से कितना government earn करती है? So most governments around the world, they are fiscally dependent upon the fuel tax revenue. So it is not just true in case of Indian government, but even the global level, most of the governments, the larger proportion of the tax revenues flows from the oil. So according to Petroleum Planning and Analysis Cell, the petroleum accounted for over 17.5% of the central's revenue in 2022. 15% the revenue for all the states and UTs. It came from the VAT, which is imposed on the petroleum products. So according to the experts, again, as per their analysis, जिस space से electric vehicles की demand increase हो रही है, तो उसके according जो loss of tax revenue होगा, that would be somewhere around 10.2% to the Delhi government in 2030. So center, it will lose 10% of the revenue from the fuel taxes due to electric vehicles in Delhi. So this is only for Delhi. Quote of the day is, for the very first time, an Indian rating agency, it will assign sovereign ratings to the rest of the world. So all this while we allowed other people to deconstruct us. Basically, जो foreign rating agencies हैं, basically they were functioning, they were rating India's economic growth. And it's time that we get confident enough to deconstruct the rest of the world on our terms. So credit rating agency से regarding अब आपको सब कुछ पता होना चाहिए. How do they function, their competency in India, the rising competition, their regulation, and their, we can say, the quality or reliability over their ratings. That is important. Coming to Financial Express newspaper. So let's see important and the objective topics which are important for the examination. So India bites the bullet, open for the global arbitration of disputes. So we see that a lack of takers for 2015 model text for the bilateral investment treaties and a slowing of the FDI inflows, it has prompted New Delhi to take another look at the template. So we are seeing slowdown in FDI as well. So bilateral investment treaties again. उसके भी क्या benefits रहे हैं in the past, जो भी treaties हमने sign करी है, we have had an agreement on them, and we are seeing कि FDI inflow का जो pace है, even that is slowing down. So क्या किया जाना चाहिए so that this is not basically this is not allowed to be continued. So to accommodate the concerns of the potential partners, obviously that needs to be addressed. Government may choose not to insist on the stance that international arbitration, it can be explored as a means of resolution of the disputes by a foreign investor only after there's domestic legal remedies, they are exhausted. So according to sources, discussion papers to be floated soon, they will be suggested redrafting the text to allow first resort to international arbitration within India. That needs to be the first step. And the process, the paper, it will suggest that there is maybe under the administrative supervision of the Permanent Court of Arbitration, which is located at The Hague in Netherlands. So that can be one thing, that the proper process or the proceedings might happen under their supervision. So this significant change, it is expected to address the drought of new bilateral investment treaties since India shifted to the 2015 text, which is only 4 new treaties have since been signed after 2015. So BITs, they are basically reciprocal agreements between two countries to promote and protect their foreign private investments in each other's territories, and they're expected to help boost investors' confidence. So right now there are only 6 BITs which are in force and 68 were abrogated unilaterally by India. And only 4 agreements have been signed after 2015 and only 2 are in force right now. So around 74 were ratified, and you can see the conversion rate was very less. Innovation-based economy. In the last decade, reforms they were done for an innovation-based economy. तो क्या reforms किए गए अब आपको ये find out करना important है. Insolvency and bankruptcy code, GST, these are two of them, and inflation targeting that was started. So three things are already mentioned in terms of क्या reforms लिए गए in order to boost the innovation-based economy. Apart from this, आप थोड़ा और सोच सकते हो. This is specifically in terms of economy, but बाकी different domains में भी आप सोच सकते हो कि how it can impact, the reforms can impact boosting the innovation based economy. So since agriculture sector की अगर हम बात करें, export bans impose किए जा रहे हैं, introduce किए जा रहे हैं, तो farmers को assistance provide करना भी important हो जाता है. तो this is what the Prime Minister has been thinking of, and he has basically proposed. So high inflation has eroded the wages of the farmers. So एक तो inflation की वजह से उनकी wages they are being eroded, and साथ ही साथ अपने export ban भी कर दिया, तो further जो उनके income increase होने के या income earn करने के prospects थे वो भी और limited हो गए. तो इस scenario में government farmers को कैसे और help कर सकती है? So the pro-consumer and anti-farmer bias of the policies will need some intervention. So यहाँ पे भी आप बोल सकते हो there is an ethical dilemma whether you would be going forward with promoting pro-consumer steps or anti-farmer bias. Because जो steps आप लोगे या जो policy measures आप introduce करोगे in order to promote the welfare of the consumers, वो कहीं ना कहीं they would be hampering the interest of the farmers. So how you're going to balance between them is a most important thing. So National Logistics Summit 2023, navigating the challenges and the opportunities of the modern logistics landscape. So this is an important topic from GS paper, and you can basically obviously think more about on the similar terms. Basically क्या न्यू challenges है. पहले तो आपको पता होना चाहिए कि इंडिया के लॉजिस्टिक सेक्टर एंड ग्लोबल लॉजिस्टिक सेक्टर के बीच में कंपैरिजन, वेयर डू वी स्टैंड, what are the challenges, and again opportunities क्या है of modern logistics landscape, and what steps have government taken in order to reduce the logistics costs specifically in India. Taking up the Indian Express newspaper, so let's see the topics not taken up so far. So according to Lancet India's research, we see that improved nutrition and early weight gain, it can help in cutting the tuberculosis cases and the mortality in India. So even here you can see the linkage of improved nutritional security and reduced number of cases related to TB. And apart from this, again, you need to know about the target year of completely eliminating TB from India. That is, the target year is 2025, which is 5 years before the UN target year of 2030. And apart from this, you can also relate it with the importance of millets here because they're nutritionally rich. So the rations, which is reducing the activation of tuberculosis by improvement of the nutritional status. It is the improved nutrition, it can reduce the incidences of all forms of TB by up to 40% and of the infectious TB by up to 50%. So that's how the impact it can be. Such a large impact could be created merely by working upon improving the nutritional security. So we are celebrating the 81st anniversary of Quit India movement. So to celebrate it, there would be Tiranga Padyatra organized on 9th of August at 10 o'clock. That is obviously today at 10 a.m. It was supposed to begin. So with the call of Quit India, how आप इसको आज के टाइम में contemporary times में कैसे differently interpret कर सकते हो? And obviously we are celebrating the 81st anniversary, so Quit India movement becomes very important. So today nation is saying to every evil that exists in the country to quit India. तो corruption की बात करो, nepotism, appeasement, to quit India. So you can see in the Hindi translation is also mentioned Bhrashtachar, Parivarvad and Tushtikaran. So this is India's Amrit Kal and we are marching towards the goal of development. So the Amrit Kal is also the Kartavya Kal. So this is new energy, new inspiration, and we are moving ahead with a new resolve. So, under the Ayushman Bharat, irregularities have been highlighted by CAG reports. So, it reports 7.5 lakh recipients. They are linked to one single number, and that single number is this 10 times you have 9. So, highlighting the irregularities in registration and the validation of the beneficiaries under the Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, CAG, it has revealed nearly 7.5 lakh beneficiaries ऐसे हैं which are linked to single cell phone. How it is possible? So this is one cell phone number and another one that has been identified is this. So a very valid concern, which is shared by our teacher, is that if we become overly cautious or we worry that a student is recording the lecture, how can we teach about Marx, Gandhi, Ambedkar, Iqbal, and Premchand? So again, this is one of the negative repercussions of increased usage of technology in education sector, because obviously the fallouts can be very difficult to handle. So this we have seen that referendum is not an option under the Indian Constitution. And we've discussed in detail about जो भी proper discussion हुआ in front of the Constitution bench of the Supreme Court. So ECOWAS, the West African bloc of the nations, it has indicated that it is planning to intervene in the coup in Niger. So situation और ज़्यादा volatile हो सकती है. And ECOWAS है क्या actually? So it is also known as CEDEAO. It is in French that it's called CEDEAO. So it is the regional group जो established किया गया 1975 में through the Lagos Treaty with the mandate of promoting the economic integration among its members. So purpose was promotion of economic integration amongst the members. So 15 member countries were a part of it. But we are seeing that after several coups in recent years in different and some of the biggest countries in this bloc, namely in Mali, in Guinea, and Burkina Faso, so it suspended 3 and refused to recognize their new governments. So basically, this bloc it suspended these 3 members where the military coup was witnessed and their governments were not recognized. Now, the larger aim is to have a single common currency and create a single large trading bloc in the areas of industry, transport, telecommunications, energy, financial issues. So there's been row in the parliament over the select committee. So what is this body and what are the rules which are governing it? So select committee hoti kya hai? So India parliament you might have heard about that. There are several types of committees to discharge different functions. 12 standing committees hain. They are permanent in nature. And जो उनके members हैं हर साल nominated किए जाते हैं apart from the chairman. So privileges committee hai where the home minister he wanted the Raghav Chadda matter referred to in one such case. And then second type की जो committees होती हैं they are called ad hoc या temporary committees. Ad hoc committee मतलब एक specific purpose के लिए उनको बनाई जाती है. So when that purpose is fulfilled, so no more we have them committees that particular committee functioning. So specific purpose के लिए they are made up and उसके बाद they are dissolved once the purpose has been served. So there is rule number 125 of the Rajya Sabha and procedures related to it. So members, they may move an amendment that a bill be referred to a select committee. So while discussion in the parliament during the sessions, it might be possible that jo MPs hai, they might move an amendment that a particular bill needs to be referred to a select committee for further deliberation. So according to the Rajya Sabha rules, these select या joint committees, मतलब सारी parliamentary committees की हम बात कर रहे हैं, they are constituted by the House on specific motion which is moved by the minister in charge of the bill, or it can be done by any member and then further adopted by the House. So जो joint committees हैं, उनके members दोनों लोकसभा and राज्य सभा से belong करते हैं. So members select कैसे किए जाते हैं? So according to again Rajya Sabha rules, on a motion move किया जाता है, it is adopted in the House, and bills they are from time to time referred to these select committees, and members on which they are specifically named in the motion itself. So जो members हैं select committees के on a bill they are appointed by the House, where the motion that the bill be referred to a select committee that is made. So that is the proper procedure. So committee it works कैसे work करती है? So there is obviously quorum required है for each sitting that needs to be 1/3 of the total number of members of that particular committee. तो तभी वो committee function करेगी. So in case there is equality of votes किसी particular matter पे while discussion, so chairman it will have the second और जिसको हम बोलते हैं casting vote. And select committee it may also appoint sub committee further. मतलब select committee के अंदर भी एक और committee appoint की जाती है to examine any special point which is connected to a particular bill. So if there is any dissent within the committee, उसको भी present किया जाता है in front of the Rajya Sabha, and then it is further taken up for deliberation and discussion amongst the MPs. So जो committees हैं इनकी job ये है to go through the text of the bill जो उनको refer किया जाता है clause by clause, मतलब that is in detail they have to go into that bill the provisions, and you need to check, they need to basically check कि whether the provisions of the bill जो mention किए गए हैं do they clearly reflect the intention behind the measure and the object that is proposed to be achieved is adequately brought out or not. So जब फाइनली रिपोर्ट सबमिट कर दी जाती है बाय दिस कमिटी टू द पार्लियामेंट, तो उसके बाद क्या होता है? सो जो रिपोर्ट है इन कमिटीज की, पार्लियामेंट्री कमिटीज की, दैट इज रिकमेंडेटरी नेचर, वो बाइंडिंग नहीं है. गवर्नमेंट कैन चूज टू एक्सेप्ट और रिजेक्ट द सजेशंस एंड रिकमेंडेशन. सो that's how their role is. Now you need to think more about why their role is important. मतलब ये तो हमने थोड़ा ऑब्जेक्टिव टर्म्स में बात करें कैसे वो फंक्शन करती है, टाइप्स ऑफ कमेटी क्या होती है, कैसे मेंबर्स सिलेक्ट किए जाते हैं. अब आपको ये समझना है कि जो इनका मेजर पर्पस है, मेजर एम है, वो कैसे इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाता है, मतलब डेमोक्रेसी के लिए, स्टेबिलिटी के लिए, एंड इवन जो क्वालिटी ऑफ द बिल्स हैं, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजंस वायलेट ना हो, उसके पर्सपेक्टिव से थोड़ा और सोचोगे तो यू विल गेट सम पॉइंट्स. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us in today's analysis video. I hope the topics that we took up and discussed in detail, they are clear to you. And you can definitely share your feedback in the comments, and do subscribe to the channel, and do not forget to like this video. Thank you so much.